All right, we are back on a Thursday. Got the club going up on a Thursday. I think that was what the kids said a few years ago. We're playing a fun old game of trade, cut, extend. This is going to be rapid fired. We're going to try and keep this quick, but for those of you that don't know the rules to trade, cut, extend, because we've never played it on Load the Box, well, I'm going to say a name, and then Will's going to say a name, and we're going to say if we would trade this person, cut this person, or give them a contract extension. This doesn't play well for daytime television, but there is also the option of don't touch it. Leave it alone, let it play out as is. And I already know who I'm giving that option to. So that's kind of fun that we do have that little option. But let's kick it off. Let's get right into it. Trade, cut, extend. Running back of the Minnesota Vikings, Dalvin Cook.
Well, we're starting it off with an absolutely on fire one here. Dalvin Cook is the talk of the town, not in the way he would like to be. I would trade him if I could. And I say that with a big asterisk because I don't know if anybody's taking his contract. If I'm the Vikings, though, I either trade him or I cut him. I think he's too expensive to have on the team next year and not productive enough.
I agree with you. I would trade him with the asterisk of if no trade partner is found, I would cut him to save the dead cap money.
Yeah.
All right, my turn.
Your turn, young man. CJ Ham. Minnesota favorite, Duluth native.
Yeah, this one is honestly like the most difficult for me because I love CJ Ham. I'm going to go with I think they will cut him. I would leave it lay. I would not touch CJ Ham. I don't think you need to cut CJ Ham. I think you can free up money elsewhere and continue to use that, but Kevin O'Connell's offense doesn't really need a fullback. Kind of feels like he's forcing himself to use one, so unfortunately, he'll probably be cut, but I would leave his contract alone personally. How about you?
I've got so many thoughts on this, but I'll just leave it quick. I would cut him, and it pains me to say it.
Yeah, we might if we get through this too fast and we get through our list, we might have to go back and revisit CJ Ham because that is a dramatic one. All right, how about this one? This one's easy. Jordan Hicks.
I'd cut him.
Yeah, I'd cut him.
Pretty low cap, and he was not very good this year.
Yeah, not very good, and also, I just want to hear the phone call of, anybody want to give me a 7th-round draft pick for Jordan Hicks? I hope you didn't watch any Vikings game this season.
Great guy. I loved every single one of his interviews. Just couldn't do it on the field, which was sad because he was a potentially great offseason signing. Your turn, Jordan. Eric Kendricks, fan favorite. He's been around for a long time and played next to Jordan Hicks this season.
Yeah, he is. He's another. I will give him the respect of saying trade. I will give him the respect of saying someone would give up a 7th-round pick for him. He's gonna get cut. If they get rid of him, he's going to be cut. His body just doesn't have it. I hate to say it. This game. It's all, it's not all glitz and glamour. Okay, these are hard business decisions. I love Eric Kendricks. He was my favorite Viking for a long time. He can't be on this team next season. No shot at all. No shot at all.
Yeah, I would cut him. I think it's again, similar to Jordan Hicks, not productive enough over the last year plus-ish and pretty cheap in terms of dead cap.
All right, let's go back to the offense. What would you do with Chris Reed? Would you trade, cut, or extend Chris Reed?
He's a kind of strange one, right? Because he didn't really see the field until week 17, and he looked awful playing center for about 3 quarters. I would leave it. I wouldn't do anything. Offensive line depth is very important. Having a veteran in the room is very important. Not that the Vikings don't have veterans. I mean, they got Brian O'Neill, and depending on what they do with Garrett Bradbury, and so they're not exactly just a bunch of young bucks out there. But Chris Reed was highly regarded from his time with Indianapolis. He, as far as we know, was a professional in the room and didn't make a fuss about not playing hardly at all this season, despite having a rough go of it from the Vikings right guard Ed Ingram. So I would like to keep him. He's pretty cheap. You got to have offensive line depth, like I said. So you never know if somebody's going to go down with an injury. So I'd keep him. I wouldn't do anything with it.
Yeah, you actually have unlocked the bonus round, the bonus money round. Okay, all answers are worth double. They're more double jeopardies, whatever the rules of this game are. What would you do with Garrett? But would you bring Garrett Bradbury back? Like, do you want him back or do you let him walk? This is the second game. Bring him back or let him walk.
I think I would go draft the Minnesota Gophers center.
Yeah, like Mitchell Schwartz or whatever his last name is.
John, or no, Michael Schwartz, I think.
Michael Schwartz. Mitchell Schwartz is an actual football player.
John Michael Schwartz. I think it's John Michael Schwartz. I feel terrible because I'm allegedly a Gophers fan. But I would, if I could, if he was still available and you didn't feel like you had to go get a defensive player who we'll talk about in our next show, I would try and go get Schwartz because I think he just profiles as an absolute stud, and you got to have a good offensive line. Yep. I mean, you watch the Super Bowl, it's just so apparent that if you have quarterback running for your life, especially when your quarterback is basically a pocket guy, you're not going to go places. Kirk Cousins, made lemonade out of lemons with Garrett Bradbury falling in his lap, 3 times a game over the last few years. But I think it's probably time to move on, which I don't love to say because I would love to make it work with Bradbury, but I think you got to move on.
I agree with you. Move on from him. For Chris Reed, I am saying leave it, let it lay, leave it be. Don't mess with it. If we do go get John Michael Schwartz, then Chris Reed's a good backup and he has playoff experience, so that's a plus for a backup center.
And he can play multiple positions, right? Also, just gonna correct our oblivious, terrible mistakes. It's John Michael Schmitz.
Oh,
so that's our guy.
I feel like we just lost this game show.
Yeah, I think we should probably turn it off.
Yep, shut it down. Skull, y'all.
But yeah, Chris Reed is good because he can play multiple positions, right? So how about a spicy one? Zadarius Smith.
I would cut Zadarius Smith. This is one that the cap the Vikings are like $20 million under the cap. People have to leave. We can't say like, oh, you know what? Actually, we're just going to snap our fingers. What are you going to do? Are you going to add 3 years to the end of Zadarius Smith's contract and keep him as a Viking until he's 36 years old? He already can't really stay healthy. I hate to say that because I hate the people that are like, oh, well, he can't stay on the field. Like, especially when it's freak stuff like he got his knee smashed into another knee. Like, that's not his fault. But like, he had a back injury. He's banged up his knee. He's in his early 30s. I feel like you could, let Patrick Jones or DJ Wanham or draft guy come in and kind of take his job and have this defense revolve around Danielle Hunter as your premier pass rusher. So I'm saying cut.
I'm not sure if this is allowed, but I would try and allowed meaning for this game show. I would try and restructure it and put a lot of his money into a bonus pool so you can save some of the cap space if you can.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I think I would, begrudgingly cut him as well, just because, if you can trade him, great. Of course, trading is generally the best option because you can get something in return, but it's not always doable. So it's kind of how I feel as well.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I kind of brought up Danielle Hunter. He is technically under contract. He's not making any money. There's no shot he's going to play under the current contract that he has. He's a guy who I have a spicy answer for. This is one that I know we're not supposed to. I might discuss afterwards, but what would you do with Danielle Hunter?
I would actually extend him. I think you get a defensive coordinator in here who is all about pressuring the quarterback. You let Danielle Hunter do his thing. Yes, he's had a couple of injuries, which you hate to see, but he's not overly old at this point. He's been around for a while, but he's not exactly, he's not 32 or anything. I would extend him for a short while and keep him around because you need to have pass rushing in this league, especially with a defensive coordinator who loves to bring pressure. And so just to rely on a bunch of rookies or, unheralded guys probably isn't the recipe for success, especially if you're considering cutting or trading Zadarius Smith. So I would actually extend him.
I would trade him if the price was a first round pick and a mid round pick. If you can't get kind of a haul, I would extend him as well. That's kind of my analysis. Everybody on this team has a price. Daniil Hunter in a contract year, he's still in his 20s. He's been pretty good. He's proved he can stay healthy for a full season. Houston, anybody with a solid first round pick this year, you want to let the Vikings, have an earlier pick than 23? I'm all ears, but that's kind of my thoughts.
What would you do with Adam Thielen?
I would trade him for a 7th round pick in 2026 to anybody but the Packers. Do not cut him. Don't cut him. He will go to Green Bay and he will somehow find the Lazarus Pit from the DC comics or the Fountain of Youth, from whatever, and he'll be a superstar again for Jordan Love, and he'll beat the Vikings for like 2 years before he retires. Don't let him go to the Packers. Don't let it happen. Can't.
He's from Minnesota, obviously, so the Midwest would obviously be a place where he'd like to stay. His wife is a Packers fan. I think what you're saying could definitely come true. And frankly, there are some teams who might want Adam Thielen. He put up 700 plus yards last year. He's not a complete slouch. I think we talk about him, and I talk about him like he's just got nothing left, but in terms of what this team needs, he doesn't fill that void. But somebody could use him. So find a trade partner and trade him. I agree.
This is going to sound dramatic. I would trade Adam Thielen and like next year's 5th to a team for like a this year's 7th. Like just to get rid of the contract and keep him out of green and gold. Like I just don't want him in the division. And I know that if we cut him, I do think he is. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. That's why he's good, and that's why he was good, was because he's so competitive. If the Vikings give him the middle finger, he's going to give it right back, and he's going to go play for the heated right. He might shock everybody, go to Detroit, because Detroit has the best shot at winning the division. Anyway, we're speculating a whole bunch. Maybe we should do an Adam Thielen episode in the future. But Harrison, we really could. Harrison Hitman Smith, trade, cut, extend.
I wouldn't touch it. Ideally, I'd love to. You always want to restructure. You always want to kick money down the road, whatever. But the Vikings just restructured last year with him. I think it would be, it'd be a good faith move to not do that again with him. I think we've talked about this. Him plus Brian Flores is just glorious, and you want to keep him around. I think his contract is, frankly, it's just too long at this point. I don't love the fact that he's under contract for 3 more years, but you got to see what he can do in the Brian Flores defense. I'd keep him.
I would entertain a trade, but I lean more towards don't touch it. I lean towards a trade because of the whole Belichick trade him a year early rather than a year late mentality. But I'd be if the Vikings keep him, I won't be mad.
Well, and on that point, if you can find some way to, of all these trades we're talking about, go get Antoine Winfield Jr. from the Buccaneers.
Absolutely.
I'd be willing to part with Harrison Smith for sure. The reason why I want to keep him around is because I'm not sure I love a safety room that is Cam Bynum, Josh Metellus, and Lewis Cine, when Lewis Cine is probably our highest prospect, if you will, of that group, but he didn't play at all last year because he got injured. So I want to keep Smith for consistency, veteran leadership, and just he's going to put a good product out there.
Yeah, no, I agree. With you.
We got one more, and it's spicy, and we could probably spend the entire offseason talking about this guy. He wears chains. He sings at NFL honors. He won the Bart Starr Award. He's a man of many talents. Kirk Daniel Cousins. What would you do with him? He's got 1 year left on his deal.
And this is the thing. A lot of this is dependent on other teams. If San Francisco calls you about Kirk Cousins and they're serious and they want to talk shop, they want to talk business with you. They don't want to chit chat. They want to get to business. You have the conversation. You get first round pick. You get rid of Kirk. It's not because Kirk didn't play well. He played amazing. That's why we're talking about trading him for first round picks. Maybe a first and a third and Trey Lance. And we'll throw you a 5th. We'll give you Coke and a fifth for that. But like, if San Francisco is interested, you have to entertain it. I think Coke would waive the no trade to, if the Vikings say like, look, bub, like we're gonna draft a quarterback this year. Whether it's Tanner McKee or whatever, we're going to stout him. Well, we plan on stouting him in the first week. We're going to move on. We want to go in a different direction. If that is what the Vikings feel, I don't think it is. I think the Vikings like Coke. I think he'll stay. If they do keep him, I hope they don't touch the contract. Let him play it out and fresh cut away. Let him go. Pick a team in free agency. Let him have another sweepstakes, that whole thing. But those will be my final thoughts. I'll let you talk about Coke because I know this is one that you can't just give a one-word answer to. And then you can hit the skull y'all and we can get out of here.
Sweet. Hitting the skull y'all, is that equivalent to hitting the gritty? Are we on that level yet?
I think the skull y'all is just smaller than the gritty, but I'm sure that everybody will be saying just skull y'all at the NFL honors next season. It's going to be all the rage with the kids.
It's going to be us. You make a very compelling argument with the trade. I think if you can get a good trade package back, and I think Kirk would take a trade to San Francisco. He's been on the record saying he wants to stay in Minnesota. He wants to finish his career here. He basically is Minnesota. He fits the culture perfectly. He fits the state. He fits the team. Everything about Kirk Cousins is just, it is Minnesota, but he loves Kyle Shanahan, and they have history together. And I think it would be a situation where he would take that. If it was me, and I wrote an article about this, I would extend him. Short-term extension. I would not, give him another massive contract by any stretch. I would work with him to get a team-friendly deal, and get him in a position where we can have him for a couple more years. We can draft his replacement in the next year or two, and then we let that guy sit behind him for a year or two, and then hand the keys to the car to the next guy. Please tell me we're not drafting Tanner McKee. I don't think any of us want him. We don't with his feet. We need somebody who can run around. I just need somebody who can make plays, and Tanner McKee's not that.
I agree with you. I know exactly what you're trying. Like what you're saying is like we don't need another like dokey, unathletic quarterback. I don't want to say unathletic because it takes a lot of athleticism to play in the NFL, but we don't need another like statue quarterback. I mean, and Tanner McKee is definitely, there's going to be NFL GMs who like Vegas seems like a perfect fit for Tanner McKee because Josh McDaniels loved Tom McBrady, LOL, Tom Brady, and like, oh yeah, Tanner McKee, he's tall, he's long, he's limbo, he can't run at all, but yeah, let's draft him. He can just be Brady, and he's not Brady. No one's Brady.
You got to have a guy who can run around a little bit. He does not have to be Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is a 1 in a million. The guy can squat more than defensive linemen. But if you can get somebody who can even run around to the level of Brock Purdy or
Daniel Jones.
I mean, you've talked a lot. Daniel Jones. You've talked about Max Duggan. Guys that can extend a play. So anyway, I'm getting way too on a rant here about playmaking quarterbacks, but short of it, I'd extend Kirk by a little bit, find the quarterback of the future, groom him, get him familiar with Kevin, and then we roll from there as Kirk retires off into the sunset and lives the rest of his days in, I don't know where he lives right now, Egan. So anyway, it's been a lot. It's been fun. Trade, cut, extend. I think this is a game that could stay with us in Load the Box lore. I think this is a fun one.
I think it has to.
All right. Well, that's all we got. Shop Unified Athletic Wear. Read the Bad Loser blog. Read VikingsTerritory.com. PurplePTSD.com. And I think that's everything. Oh, find us on Twitter at LTB Vikings and at Will Bad Lose. That's all we got. Skull y'all.